That's Tayo. This is Color Mind, a place where I talk about things that I've thought about, so maybe you can think about them too. And welcome to Overthoughts, this little kind of side thing that I want to do in between like bigger, more big brainy videos that I was going to actually start in a couple of weeks, but something very grave has come to my attention. People don't like Turning Red. Set in Toronto, Ontario in 2002, Turning Red follows Mei Li, a 13-year-old Chinese-Canadian student who transforms into a giant red panda when she gets into a state of strong emotion. It was inspired by director Dumi Shi. It was based on her experiences, and if that name sounds familiar, it's because she is the one that directed that Pixar short about the dumplings that was seasoned so well because it used all of our tears. Seeing Red as a movie is energetic and fun-loving and dripping in that early 2000s nostalgia. I saw it over the weekend just like on a whim while you're just relaxing on a Saturday night in. It was way more impactful than I thought it was going to be. I hadn't heard anything about it. For some reason, I didn't see like a big promo push or like trailers recently for it. I'm so glad that I saw it. Everything from the almost like pristine recreation of Toronto to the energy of the main character Mei, and also like the set pieces of just the entire movie. It's a good Pixar film. It's a really, really good Pixar film at a time when I was afraid that Pixar was kind of losing its steam. I watched Soul, I got Soul, I didn't necessarily love Soul. I haven't seen Luca. I did love Encanto, but sue me, but it wasn't Coco. Its themes and just the execution of the story was so, I guess, impactful for me that I was still thinking of it on Sunday when I was just like walking around my neighborhood. So it was very, very surprising for me on Monday morning when I saw that it had a less than favorable Rotten Tomatoes audience score for a Pixar's movie. And it was even more surprising when then I saw actual shade being thrown on Twitter. Twitter, the app where all sensible opinions eventually find their place and conversation is civil. And, at first I kind of was like, it's whatever, it's Twitter, people are going to say what they're going to say. But I don't know, the more I started reading, like, people's takes and then also going to Rotten Tomatoes and seeing, like, people's first reaction to the film, I kind of start getting mad. Like, and I don't get mad at people's reactions to movies, but, like, I thought the movie was really important and I thought the movie was really, really good. And hearing the particular types of takes that kept coming up again and again kind of pushed me to a breaking point where I was like, nah, I need y'all to look at some of these and I need us to dissect what exactly people don't get about Turning Red. So that's what we're going to do. I scoured through Rotten Tomatoes looking at like kind of what people were saying and especially at the critiques. And what I noticed is that you can basically sum up all of Turning Red's critiques into three basic categories. So why don't we look at some of those three main complaints while I get drunk. Why did it fall? Okay, I don't want to drink like the whole thing, but
I want to know who saw these character designs and went, yeah, that's not stupid looking at all.
Absolutely dreadful film. I'm 6 minutes in. I hated every single second. Not my Pixar.
So the first class of complaint that I want to attack about Turning Red is the one that I think I give the most grace towards because it's definitely something that I also almost fell prey to, and that is the animation style. The animation style does not necessarily look Pixar-like. It's not their usual sort of animation style. It kind of looks, the only way I could put it, I forgot the name of it, but it's like that Wallace and Gromit or whatever type animation, not claymation, but the same thing with like kind of like the oversimplistic body shapes and like the really, really big eyes. Luca is also animated the same way. I haven't seen Luca, but when I went to go check, it's animated in a similar way, and I don't see anybody else dragging Luca for that. But then again, maybe it's because not a lot of people saw Luca. Anyway, when we come to Pixar animation, we expect the best, and they continue to show that they are the best by proving a major movie can be made on a home computer. Good story. It took me a while before I liked the main character, but she grew on me. Animation would have been considered pretty good from some small studio. However, this was made by Pixar, and I never did get over how lame the animation looked from a studio that usually produces such high quality. Here's my problem with that. The animation isn't bad though. Like, it's different, but it's not bad. I think like what they give up in the quote unquote realism of, realism when we're talking about a studio that made Up and like The Incredibles. But when we give up in the sleekness, I guess, of some other Pixar movies, I think we make back in the fluidity and like the expressiveness of all the shots in Turning Red. I think as a moving picture, like the scenes look beautiful. You can see how they wear their Ghibli influences on their sleeve in a bunch of the cooking shots. I think like in motion, this movie looks as energetic as it feels. And once I did get over that mental hump of being like, okay, yeah, this movie does look like a little weird, I found myself saying like, but it still looks really, really cool. And I think if you're a fan of animation, rather than being like a fan of Pixar or just a fan of movies, if you really like animation, it's shot very well. It's shot very well. She's direction is felt all over the screen. Like, I really like some of the cinematography in this movie. It's not really that distracting of a thing for me, but like I said, this is the only argument I can really say that I give a little bit of weight to, because I can understand if you are not very much into animation, or if you are a person who the only reason why you will watch cartoons or animated features is because you just like how they look. Maybe this isn't a film that off the bat, off like the first 6 minutes, you feel is worth your time. You're wrong, but we all make mistakes. This is grapefruit. Now, the next argument, the by far biggest complaint regarding Turning Red, is that it's not for kids.
This movie just isn't for young kids. It encourages rebellion, in my opinion. Don't let your kids watch this and then wonder why they're 14 and won't listen to you and/or pregnant. Yet another movie made in the medium most attractive to children that tries to touch on topics inappropriate and sensitive for many of its very young audience. Leave sexuality out of children entertainment. Let kids be kids, and let parents handle the coming-of-an-age issues. Disappointing and alarming. Not a movie for children, unless they're being shown it behind their parents' back by a child groomer.
This doesn't make sense, because in order to assert this opinion, it means you're just telling on yourself that you don't understand the point of the movie at all. The point of the movie is not to rebel against your parents. It's to understand your own autonomy. May, at the start of the movie, is a golden child archetype, right? She is someone who gets good grades, who always comes home on time, who loves her parents and follows her mother's instructions. And this is where, especially a lot of the older viewers of Turning Red kind of immediately connect with May. I think a lot of us, particularly in the millennial or Gen Z generation, grew up like obeying our parents way more than Gen X. Like, they were known as like the latchkey kids. They were the kids that got to run out until whenever and like just made their own fucking governments via cul-de-sac. Their parents were too busy like following Reaganomics to keep them at home. But for us, we are the generation after publicized kidnappings and the helicopter parent, right? Especially in some communities more than others. So I think May is a very realistic character in the sense that she is someone who is both responsible but respectful of her parent. And ultimately that dynamic between her and her mom is what is explored within the film. Essentially what I feel like the point the movie is trying to make is not so much about rebellion, but is that as you grow older, as you go through life's changes, you inevitably have to start contending with, well, what do you want? You no longer you can't be a child forever. You can't simply just follow your parents' direction because your parents aren't you. You're you. I think even the notion that a movie teaching children rebellion isn't a children's movie is also a version of telling on yourself, because what you're saying is that like, oh no, not in my movie. I don't want my child learning how to think for themselves. There's just two different types of this particular comment. There's the type that I'm talking about right now where it's like, people don't like the film because they don't enjoy the adversarial nature of May and her mom. They don't like that the story basically rests on the fact that, hey, May needs to learn how to live her own life, and that requires disobeying her mom at some points. And people on that half think that it's harmful because they don't want their children learning that that's even an option to do with them. But then on the other half of it, there are people that just don't believe that Pixar themselves should even be perpetuating storylines like that. That is not Pixar's job to tell kids that, hey, you should have your own mind and it's okay if you want to actually build a relationship with your parents that involves trust and involves nuance. Jinkies.
It was a kids' movie that sexualized 8th graders, referenced drugs and strippers, and had the line, "My panda, my choice." I'm sure childless Gen Zers will love the movie, but this is not a family movie.
What? I also feel like this idea of like sexualized 8th graders or referencing drugs came up again and again. And that, to me, feels highly in bad faith of what's going on in the movie. Like, these children are definitely not sexualized, and especially by Pixar standard. Even the mom is not sexualized. You know how Pixar likes to do their moms. These are definitely like very down-to-earth 8th graders going through very average 13-year-old things. Are they so scared at the thought that perhaps their own children are not as squeaky clean as they think they are at the dinner table, that, you know, even the assumption or the reference to things that actual tween girls might be doing is just such an affront to their belief system? Which is funny when I think about it, because that's exactly kind of what Turning Red is going on about. It's this idea, as you grow older, you will tend to live a double life. That's what May does. May lives a double life in which when she is at home, she is a doting, respectful, subservient daughter and helps her mom out and helps her dad out. But like when she goes to school, she figures out a way to also then be her, or at least behaves in a more autonomous way that she knows she's just not allowed when she's at home. And as a child of immigrants, like that is a plot point that I felt particularly hard. Like this idea, and comment down below if you guys are also like first gen immigrants, because y'all know about this, right? Whereas like you get really, really good at code switching. The amount of friends that I had that had really big church going families, and I would see their mom up on the stage like doing testimony and talking about like how good it was that Busola, or that that Adeyemi was so perfect, and like she just got an A on her test, and she gives food to the poor. And me knowing that like literally the day before Sunday service we were definitely smoking weed out of an apple.
That's the truth. The absolute truth. Yes?
I get that's how life has to work when you're in that kind of family structure. Like I certainly wasn't above it. And to show how that conflict can play out in a family, I think was super important, because I think it helped a lot of kids. I would hope, right, that a lot of kids see that and see like, okay, cool, I'm not weird for this. This actually is just another part of growing up. I would think it would be of great benefit for families to see a movie in which someone is parsing through and, like all in all, healthily communicating the boundaries that they have with their parents, and those parents in the end also giving the child that autonomy back, choosing not to see this child as just the property of them, and understanding that, okay, cool, they are going to have their own life, and if I want to be a part of that life, then I'm going to have to allow them to live some of it without me. The film is beautiful and the animation is great. I like that the overbearing parental figure gets some backstory, but it is not appropriate for kids. I think this is the first Pixar movie that I have to say that about, and what's worse is that they are so good at animation and hooking kids, my 5 and 2-year-old girls really want to see it again. But I don't want them emulating May at all. 13 and obsessed with boys may be common, but that's not an ideal I want for my girls. She doesn't learn that it's a waste of time to sexually fantasize about older boys, but instead mom learns to respect my panda, my choice. Seriously, what? I'll quickly express empathy to the misguided intentions of people in this camp, right? I do have to contend that for a lot of people who refuse to train their kids, they look towards Disney and Pixar as really easy choices as far as indoctrinating their kids. They see a Disney or a Pixar trailer and they're like, cool, I can take my kids to go see that because I know that they are not going to say anything that I wouldn't want to tell my kids. I find it interesting that these are the type of parents that tend to go down to school board meetings and say,
hey, you shouldn't be teaching my kids whatever you feel like.
Let me teach my own kids.
and yet they are perfectly fine with sending their kids into a dark box to learn their morality lessons from 90-minute features from a multi-billion-dollar company. This keeps falling. Here, the commenter is very mad that May doesn't learn to stop fantasizing about boys. And, well, one, she is reprimanded. It's a very funny moment where she does directly address the object of May's sudden infatuation. But even more than that, do you think watching a 104-minute animated feature about not fantasizing about boys is going to stop your daughter from fantasizing about boys? If you're that concerned about your daughter falling off the wayside because, you know, she like wants to draw fanfics of One Direction or some shit, I don't fucking know. I feel like that's a personal problem. I feel like that's a personal problem. If that's not the onus is not on Pixar or any movie studio to do that. I think their only job is to tell a good story, and I think it was very grounded in the way that all of May's friends, who I fucking love, all are dealing with this infatuation of a boy band, which I'm assuming is like a discount NSYNC with like Jimin like supplanted in as the face. Sexual ideation, yelling at parents, glorified disobedience. I don't want my daughter learning my panda, my choice. They're really mad about this my panda, my choice thing. Like, I am very scared for your children. I'm so sorry if you're watching this. The characters are obnoxious and the audience is limited to girls going through puberty. And here is where we get to the crux of the problem. The idea that this movie is not universal, that it's limited, that it's for a particular type of upbringing. Which, do y'all hear that? Do y'all hear the dog whistles? It's so loud. Oh my god. They are very afraid about the very good job that Pixar did in presenting a healthy family dynamic. They saw healthy communication and talking about your feelings. Say no, not for me, not today. Make Pixar great again. At the end, the piece de resistance of this comment is that this is only limited to girls going through puberty. To which, at halfway, 2/3 through the video, I now bring up the fact that she turns into a panda. And I waited this long, one, because I forgot, but two, in order to kind of have this slight little tangent where I would like to ask you guys, like, what do you guys think the red panda symbolizes? Because I had seen a lot of discourse, and even when I talked to my housemates about this, they all really latched on to the idea of it being like her period, and like kind of like full stop there. I think like eventually, like, you know, if you push somebody on it, they're like, well, it's more than the period, it's also puberty, but they really latch onto this puberty thing, or really latch onto this period thing. And I think like even making that a main point of what the red panda is stifling to its narrative. Like, yes, it could be about the period because it is about puberty, where I am told, because I am neither female nor Asian nor from Toronto, but I think people within those three circles sometimes get periods. Like, when you say, oh, it's about puberty, therefore it must just be about girls, you are locking off the lessons that they're really trying to teach that applies to any child, right? Because it's about puberty in general. It's about this idea that as you grow older, as your emotions start to grow and complicate themselves, it's on you to figure out how you're going to compartmentalize that. It's on you about how you are going to choose to live your life, and whether or not you are going to embrace fully your emotions or if you are going to hide them away. And I end up thinking that, you know, the where the movie lands is honestly kind of a very nuanced point in which they say that, hey, you are allowed to keep this part of yourself. You are allowed to be a person that wants to feel your feelings, but you don't have to be either. Her family, throughout the generations, through this generational power return curse, have decided, once it was no longer necessary, to lock it away because that's what made them most comfortable. That's what made them the safest. And even after they break that bond in order to help their mother, or help May's mother, they inevitably decide to go back because that's how they feel most comfortable. And the movie doesn't paint that with any shame. It doesn't say, oh, they're all evil for choosing to keep in their emotions. They simply say that you are allowed the choice. And ultimately, they are accepting of May's choice to learn to live with her wild emotions. But I can see how if you just stop short of it's about a period, so it's about a period and it's a girl, so it's just about periods and girls. So I'm a man. I don't get this. You would just say, oh, this movie's not for me.
The entire movie is an obscene metaphor for a young girl getting her rag. It's about periods, not fluffy panda things. Not for boys at all. This could only be a good movie for a teenage girl. Absolutely disgusting.
Absolutely disgusting.
Easily the worst movie of all time. Please trust me. I know you don't know me IRL, but please, just trust me this once. Don't put yourself through this. You're better than this. I've never physically cringed before, but it's so bad. I actually curled into a ball just because of how bad it was. I'm angry at how awful it is. I wish the characters were real so I could just beat them up. Please, just don't. Just don't.
If a movie is so bad you want to beat up literal adolescents, BetterHelp is really good, actually. I quite enjoy it. Fuck!
The fast-paced rhythm of this movie mixed with cultural symbols like anime, boy bands, and more didn't make me feel like I watched a Pixar movie, but a basic animated film, or even worse, a Nickelodeon show for 2-year-olds.
I don't understand why the main character is so annoying. 58%. Or 6 out of 10 or whatever.
Awkward storyline. Not relatable.
This part's going to be a little shorter because I think the sentiments from the "this isn't appropriate for kids" is basically the same, but switch out kids with Chinese, menstruating, able, glasses-wearing panda bears. And anyone outside of that realm is just going to be completely lost, and they're just going to explode trying to understand the nuances of this movie. To the people that say this movie isn't for them, who is this movie for then? Right? Did you get nothing from this movie? Was this movie so utterly out of your wheelbox? What? Was this movie so utterly out of your wheelhouse that you couldn't find any way to connect with any of the characters? You've never had 3 best friends who love you unconditionally. You've never even liked a boy band. The idea that Pixar, Pixar's MO is making truly universal films, and this being a disaster because it's not as universal, not as white, straight, or manly as a regular Pixar film is toxic. Full stop. It's just toxic. I think this is one of the most universal Pixar films in this kind of new crop, this new generation of Pixar films. I found May to be so grounded, her friends to be very realistic, with probably the only thing taking me out being the fact that they are all so supportive of her. I wish I had May's friends when I was in middle school instead of the fake fucking friends that I have. Yeah, I'm talking to you, Jalon. I think her dad is amazing. Her mom means well. The conflict that they have is very earnest and very relatable. And even the allegory of the red panda bear, as I was watching it, I just kept thinking wow, this is such a cool way to interrogate this dynamic of growing older and what it really means, what the nuts and bolts of growing older really means. More than just your body changing, but your relationships changing, your view of yourself changing. I feel like people that say it's not for me refuse to try to empathize or try to connect to the lessons that the movie is trying to talk about. They don't want to think about how hard it was for them to get their parents to respect them. Maybe they never got the respect of their parents, but how hard it was to communicate with their parents that hey, look, they want some more autonomy. They want to be treated with a little bit of respect, because that's really what May's asking for, right? That is what my panda, my choice means, is that, hey, I know I'm still your child, but I think I'm of the age in which I deserve a say in what I'm doing. And I hope that you can trust me enough that that you've taught me well. And that even when you're not watching me, I'm going to try to make I'm going to try to make the correct decisions. I'm going to try to limit the amount of danger that I put in myself. So we talked a lot about people that don't get turning red, but what does getting turning red look like, you may ask? And to me, I found a couple comments that God, what I got from Turning Red and why it's such a phenomenal movie.
This movie was excellent. For young girls, it really emphasizes the importance of friendships while also portraying the need for open communication with family. It also teaches girls that it is okay to feel vulnerable and that it is okay to have emotions. Absolutely phenomenal movie. The animation is so gorgeous, and as a girl who grew up around the same era, immensely relatable. I have a feeling that some of these negative reviews are from parents to whom the movie holds up a mirror and it makes them uncomfortable. This one has just as much of a lesson for the adults as it does the kids, and encapsulates the reality of growing up as a perfect child perfectly. Turning Red is absolutely a movie for every audience, teaching parents not to demand their children to be a perfect reflection of their own desired perfection, teaching kids to forge ahead on their own path while creating an honest relationship with their role models. 10 out of 10.
And that's the thing. Who's Turning Red for? Children. Children who are growing into adults, and adults who are being children. As always, be kind. I'm so done with this fucking pig. Okay. Chug.
Des amis sont venus prendre un verre, 1 heure, et nous avons fait l'amour à plusieurs.